Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the meeting has been posted in all the normal posting places.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to the agenda. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to the minutes, just June 26th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the Monday, June 26th board meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any additions or corrections? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we've got the bill listing and financial reports.
Thank you. Payroll direct deposits numbers 900044373 through 900044445 for $67,680.19. Next, 46 through 900044506 for $85,680.62. Next is 000553675 through 000553675 for $498.69. Next, wire transfers for payroll liabilities, wires numbers 901600668 through 2017-00018 for $179,190.20. Total payroll is $333,049.70. Next, accounts payable with checks numbers 52305 through 52341 for $225,691.45. Next, we have AP wire transfers 201600664 through 201600673 for $11,726.46. There are no credit card transactions. Next is ACH direct deposits numbers 161700147 through 161700173 for $6,608.42. For a total accounts payable of $244,026.33. Total disbursements is $577,076.03.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
Sherry, have we ever done an accounting of summer school? Just kind of a summary accounting of, disbursements versus revenues?
I don't know.
I know that's an unfair question, but you haven't been trying.
So Brady, what we can do first of all is when we talk about expenditures is when we take a look at what we expend. First of all, we can only charge for, let's talk about the financing of that. We can only charge a student for the consumables in which they use. Okay, so there is no summer school fee. We're not allowed to set a flat fee. So, but we do monitor that very, very closely, Dawn, Sherry, and Stephanie, because even if it's $2 below, I mean, say there was 30 or 25 kids in a class and we charge $5, it's $125 a pop. The DPI is expecting us to spend a minimum of $125, and we need to show them that in that class we showed $125. So for the fees versus expenditures on that aspect, yes, we can line it up. But there are things we can't expend for, and this is where we work with Sherry, because salaries, we can't get revenues back for salaries. We do in the form of student FTE count on our revenue limit, but there are obviously expenses that are incurred for classes that are not consumable. Say we start up a new class and it's, say, board games. Okay, well, we've got to get some board games for that class to do. We do run the numbers.
charge us the fee?
Well, we can't because the kids aren't taking them. They stay here. So what we do though, like for instance, Camp Invention is a perfect example where we take a look at because right now Camp Invention is running underneath our summer school. Prior to this, Camp Invention was their own entity and they charged, say, $250, I think it was, right around that $200, $250 mark. For us, this upcoming year, it's $35. The reason why we did that is we ran the revenue limit counts because those 135 kids are going to go onto our revenue count, which means we get a per pupil, et cetera, et cetera. We know we're losing money just because of the employee cost, this, that, and the other thing, but in the long run, we get it. So we do make sure that summer school, because when we do take a look at budgets and stuff, we do analyze, is this class worth running if they're gonna have, this much expenditure based on the FTE that's in the class. As recently as music lessons, for instance, we have opened up music lessons, both vocal and instrumental, but we've told our instructors that you need to have a minimum of 4 individuals per half hour on an average, because that way it becomes a wash for us to make sure that that expenditure isn't exceeding the revenue on the revenue limit. So we can probably do run some of that analysis when we're all done. That accounting takes a little bit of time because remember that revenue, we count our Merton residents and then we also bill Swallow. And with Sherry being new and me not being able to say, hey, we usually finalize that bill in September, October, because that would make sense. We would probably do all of that. But that's something that we could definitely to the board because the goal for the summer school program is to make money per the revenue limit. And it was interesting, and Sherry even highlighted it in her interview. When you talk to people about how can you increase revenue for schools, the first thing they look at is their summer school program because that adds students in an opportunity when you're declining in enrollment, yet if you can add students through your summer school count. And this year, we actually opened up more classes for our 4K and 5K students, which that's why we've seen our summer school numbers, Stephanie, I think you've enrolled a lot of them. Our summer school numbers this year are up because we've allowed more 4K, 5K classes to come on in. So, Randy, we could probably present that to the finance team at the appropriate time, whenever that might be. So we can bring that to the finance team and then report that out to the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great program, and it's just be interesting to see the accounting as to whether or not we are coming out ahead or not.
Right. So we can show you where we come out as it relates to that. Yeah. And it's important because there's a 3-year rolling average that number is attached to, and that's why for Camp Invention this year we may not come out ahead.
No,
We're not going to. But
we're always a year behind.
We're always a year behind, but that year, we're always three, but it's that rolling 3, and we've almost maxed out at our summer school level, and that's only a Merton program because of the uniqueness to the revenue limit and the financing to that. So we'll bring that information to the board, through the finance committee and present that later this fall.
What do we get for the appraisal fee?
Appraisal fee came in under 4,000, it was like 3,800.
What do we actually?
Oh, well, they went through every single item at both the elementary and intermediate school, and they created an inventory list, and they projected out all the depreciation values for the year. So that goes directly to our auditors, and it's just great to have on file, so we know exactly what inventory we have, what we're depreciating, what are our capital items. So we have an updated listing of everything.
Days worth of work for them, or?
Yeah, they were here for 2 days. It was
But
not
that's,
full days, but
that's the labor on this end. And then there's the other stuff that happens outside of here when the guy gives the information and then they do their numbers.
all their
and things like that.
calculations, yeah.
Right.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Delegations to be heard. carried. Administrators report, action, donation.
We don't have any donations and we don't have any.
Yeah.
Oh, we do? There was one PTO one?
PTO for storing.
Oh, there we are, I'm sorry. PTO, $2,600 for used guitars and a folder cabinet for Mr. Buening. The guitars are used for a elective class throughout the year. We've got a beginning guitar class upcoming next year, and obviously a folder cabinet for some storage for music. So, just would like to, looking for a motion to approve the $2,600 donated by the PTO for the music program.
I'll make a motion to approve the $2,600 donated by the PTO for the music program.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Are they acoustic or?
No, I think they're just general ones, acoustic ones.
They're
Yeah.
acoustic.
We're not plugging anything in.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. No personnel action.
Nope, I do have one bit of information I wanted to share with the board, and that would be an enrollment update, where we are at. I know we've had a watch spot, Katie was mentioning prior to the board meeting about 5th grade. This is as of yesterday, and actually yesterday evening I did receive one 4K parent, so we're down to 53 4Kers at this time. But our enrollment right now is looking very positive from where we are at. We continue to receive new residents. Stephanie, Melissa, and Barb continue to get requests for kind of ins and outs. But we have a lot of people coming in talking about we moved to the district, here we go. So this is all of the paperwork that we have as of now. 5th grade is still looking very good per our plan that we want to instill at 101. So we're right where we thought we would at this time. 1st grade is probably the grade right now that we are paying the most attention to, 1st and 4th grade. We'll continue to monitor that. Right now we're at 20 for our 1st grade classrooms. So, but just wanted to give the board an update where we are at as of July 13th, July 14th now, where we're at there too. So, and this is right on to what our projections were and for our revenue limit. Sherry's been continuing to monitor this too as well and tweaking back and forth too. So another piece of information I wanted to share, and I shared with the board, but we'll share it with the community regarding our aid number has come in. And first of all, the nice thing is according to our BEAR estimate, we were within $2,000. And when you're talking about $3.8 million, whatever it is, $3.4 million, that's a pretty good estimate where we came in at. But right now, the way it plays out based on our property value, the shift from majority from the state, now the majority of the levy, or basically the revenue limit, is now on the taxpayers, on our property tax rolls. So it's been a while, and Dean, I know you mentioned there was a time a while back where that was upside down like that, but we are probably right around that 55-45 mark. But again, more to come. We'll be presenting this all at the annual meeting in September, but again, those will all be estimates, and everything final comes out in that October timeframe. So just wanted to share the board with that. And then ultimately, our construction projects are moving forward. We've got, obviously, thank you for some parking renewals there, but we've got pavement, we've got lockers, we've got paint, carpet, library project, all that is moving full steam ahead. So again, thank you for all your support on those projects.
Okay, we're on to committee reports. We've got the policy committee on cell phones.
Sure. We met on Wednesday, and when I say we had the policy committee, Phil and Katie. We also had Jay Posick, intermediate school principal, Jim Binney, our district tech coordinator, as well as Mary Iwanski, our science and technology specialist. We did take a look at about what really was really where we wanted to have cell phone either usage or not usage throughout the school day. When we say school day, basically we are defining 8:50 to 4:00. So first of all, at the primary school, it's very clear in the handbooks too as well, there is no cell phone use at all in primary school. When we take a look at the intermediate school, when we took a look at our current policy, the policy really does open up for basically interpretation of anything we want to do. So the policy as it stands right now, highlighted, they are not to be used unless it is directed by either teacher or administration. And prior to this, we have said that basically during instructional time, we do not want them to be used outside of if the teacher approves it. When we say instructional time, we would define that as any time when you are assigned to be in a class. Non-instructional time we have defined as passing period, as well as lunch recess. So those times would be considered non-instructional. Lots of conversation. We spent about 45 minutes to an hour on it, and the committee is recommending to, the policy is written the way, gives us a lot of flexibility, but the procedures and the purpose of the policy, the recommendation is coming out that during instructional time, cell phones are not allowed at all. Again, instructional time being the time in which they are designed to be basically for DPI minutes. What that means is it is not at the teacher discretion, because we've taken a look at, we've surveyed our staff, and we really feel that either through BYOD or through our Chromebook, every student is responsible for bringing a computer technology device, that everything, I shouldn't say everything, 99% of what we want them to do can be accomplished through their technology device. Now, through the survey, there was some concerns, say, about video. That was really the one piece, and video editing, that we felt that the cell phone probably was the most efficient and the most effective educational tool to get some of that done. However, in order to, the recommendation was that if a teacher wanted to use a cell phone for an educational purpose, they would have to connect and basically get signed off on from Mary Wansky, the technology specialist, as well as Jim Binney, the technology coordinator, to say, yes, a Chromebook or a BYOD device cannot accomplish that function in a very efficient manner. We will allow you to use your cell phone for a very specific project for a very specific amount of time. Now, if a teacher didn't want to go through those and they said, hey, we can do this, like we've said before, our policy also would recommend that students are allowed to use it during lunch and recess. And if a teacher wanted to say, hey, you three, why don't you come on up and let's videotape your presentation during lunch or recess, that's on their time, it's orchestrated through the teacher, boom, we're okay to do that. So basically we have said during our classes, we should not be seeing your cell phone. Shouldn't see your cell phone. Teachers will be responsible, administration will be responsible for enforcing that, which basically has been our policy prior to this year. Then it came down to, the difference is we've always allowed if a teacher say, hey guys, all right, we're gonna do this, take your cell phones out. The biggest change probably will be, and Katie, you highlighted this when you're talking to a parent, a student never forgets their phone, but yet sometimes forgets their Chromebook. So in the past, if a student said, hey, I'm really sorry, I forgot my Chromebook, I'm gonna use my phone today, teacher more than likely might say, okay, that's fine. So, but we have made it very clear that through a BYOD program, our BYOD program, which is bring your own device, cell phones are not an acceptable device for that. So the enforcement of that is, I'm really sorry you're not using a device, put your cell phone away. It is not allowed during class time. The consequences for having your cell phone out during class time works through our PBIS. The first one's a warning. The second one is we collect it. They take it back at the end of the day. And the third, and moving forward, it's held in the office and the parent needs to get it. That has been the procedures prior. And again, it's kind of more of a point of emphasis this year to really start the year when we talk about that instructional time. So then that covers the instructional time, and Katie asked an interesting question, is when do we really want our kids to be most focused and not distracted by the cell phone? And that truly was defined. What the committee is recommending is that be that instructional time when it is math, science, social studies, Spanish, Phi-Ed, etc. Art, music, all of those instructional things. The passing times, the before school, the after school, and the lunch, the committee is recommending continuing the opportunity for our kids to utilize their cellular devices. So the rationale behind that is first of all, it gives kids, I mean, all of us are connected, through many, many different avenues. It gives the kids the opportunity, A, to connect with their families if they need to, and it gives families the opportunity to connect with the children. But ultimately it does, instead of them going and trying to hide it, which they will, they do, we all know, it's just, fine, go ahead, here's your opportunity, get the jitters out, and now let's get ready to learn, knowing that there's going to be a few times throughout the day that they can check. But it also, I think, meets the needs of families too, because the more I talk to families, there is a need to say, hey, so-and-so's picking you up, or doctor's appointment, who knows? And I know there's a lot of other avenues, and we've highlighted that before. There are other avenues to connect with your child, either through the office, through email, but having this type of a setup and procedures, we really feel strongly that we're going to meet the needs of everyone, but really focusing on that educational environment. Katie and Phil, anything else that you'd like to add? Or?
No, I think you kind of got everything. I mean, it's really just a matter of, like you had said, not really changing what we're doing, but just more explicitly writing down in the policy, this is what we're going to do, and this is how, we're going to deal with, infringements and all that sort of stuff. Just so that it's not up to the teacher, because then if it's up to the teacher, I think Mary said, you have fun teachers and you have teachers that, follow the rules, and we don't want to pit teachers against teachers.
So for classroom use, it has to go through Mary and Jim?
And Jim, correct, yep. So we feel that meets the needs of our staff and the educational purposes, but it has to go through the proper channels, because like Mary, I want to highlight is here's an opportunity for education for the teacher too as well. Because if you do take a look at the survey, they've highlighted Kahoot, Today's Meet, and those are all
video stuff.
In video stuff and some audio. But when you think of Kahoot and somebody even put Skyward down, Google Apps, and those are things, well, those are all web-based platforms, and you can achieve all of those. We want teachers to continue to use those things, but if they do get stuck up against this is the best way to do it, and one of the, and especially when we're starting to talk about digital literacy across the district, we'll be able to probably get it, and I know the Student Achievement Committee is going to be very active in that too as well. But there was a few people that said, hey, it would be disruptive if I didn't have to. Well, now you just have to go through the proper channels and basically get the okay through the tech department on a very, very strict window. I mean, don't tell us it's going to be, for 9 weeks. No. When do you need it? You have to plan accordingly so that we can, the kids can know when to bring them and if they need them and move forward. We also did talk about that if these, obviously this is a fluid document and continue to be looked at, but there are ways around. For instance, if we wanted to, instead of cellular phones, we could say, hey, let's buy 6 iPad minis. Or we've got the new iPads minis that we just purchased for the STEM, which are, for instance, in this building, the last trimester, because they're working with 5th grade in their robotics program. So we do have there are some avenues that you can do that, but if it does become, hey, holy cow, kids are bringing cell phones all the time because of the video, either that can be positive, but ultimately if we need to purchase some technology devices to accommodate that. And Phil's point too is because if we are going to be doing more video editing, typically that's not free. There's small, like our staff right now is using WeVideo, which is a Google platform where you get 5 minutes free. When you start to talk about creating a historical fiction documentary, you might need more than 5 minutes for that too. So again, very fluid, but we feel strongly that this meets the needs of our educational environments, meets the needs of our staff, but ultimately meets the needs of our students as well as our families too.
You talked about the use during passage. Are we protected for privacy issues if the kids, let's say there's a fight or something like that, and somebody videotapes that with their phone, and then somebody that's been videotaped comes back and say, we're allowing my privacy to be abused? Are we covered for that on a legal aspect?
From a legal aspect, yes, schools are protected from that standpoint. Now, We are not protected if we would say, if we videoed it, we are not allowed to release that at all. We can't do that. A bus video, for instance, when you talk about that, Dean, one of the things that when we deal, if there's a bus issue, a parent will come in and say, I want to see the video. I'm really sorry, you can't because there's 30 other kids on that bus. And so, yes, it has gone through the legal channels, and that's one of those things that's just, it's a function of, as long as we're not negligent from that standpoint, but when we talk about the privacy aspect, it's no different than in the mall or anything else like that, but we are protected from that privacy standpoint. As long as we don't release it or put pictures on the website or whatever it might be, so we've got some strict policies.
Is it clear enough in our policy that we're not allowing children to use those, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's up on the internet right away?
Well, I don't know if we can, are we clear in our policy? I don't know if it's disciplinary.
We're the deepest pockets, or are somebody gonna come back and say,
Well, the deepest pocket is 50,000.
yeah,
That's it.
but somebody gonna come back and say, I'm just want to make sure we're clear enough in our policy saying, you know, you can't be using your cell phone to videotape other kids on the premises.
Without an educational purpose. In our intermediate school handbook, it says, you know, we're underneath the telephone use, which is a cellular, it says cell phones are not allowed at all in locker room or more private areas, restrooms and bathrooms and things like that. But are we protected legally? Certainly. And in this case, actually, we are not the deepest pocket. You would go after the students' families and homeowners policy because they got deeper pockets than what we do per state statute. But to answer your question, we are legally protected. But we talked about this. If you take a look at some of the school districts, and Wauwatosa is a perfect example, they had issues. Their reactive policy, because they had so many concerns, and there were things that they're trying to stop. And one of them was either student videotaping or inciting the old, you know, hey, we're gonna have a food fight at noon, everybody be ready, you know, this type, and I'm saying that happened in Tosa. But that type of situation they're trying to avoid. But the school district as itself, or any private entity, whether you're a gas station owner or anything else, the sharing of video is protected. You have no ownership or no liability in that, unless you're negligent.
We ultimately are going to be rewriting the policy.
We are going to be revising, yes, correct, yeah, we will create.
Pagers exist anymore.
Well, I don't know, who knows, it's still a two-way street, but I will be reviewing the policy, and then what we'll do is we'll let strike-throughs and things like that.
I would suggest making the electronic devices language a little bit more broad, because pagers I don't think are active in anybody uses.
No.
And it's no longer a two-way device. I mean, cell phones can be three-way, four-way.
Right, and we'll clean the language up, and we'll present that in the August, at the August meeting. But yeah, we'll clean that up, and it'll be a revision on that. But basically, what we're asking to do, what we're asking the intermediate staff to do, we have the right to do so within the policies that are set forward to it. Yeah.
The other thing that I noted in one of the other district's policies was that they specifically called out locker rooms and that might be.
In restrooms, we can put that in our policy. We have that in our handbook. It's in the handbook already. Correct. Yep. The other policy meeting item that was on the agenda that isn't in the packet was we did review the superintendent evaluation, and it is the recommendation of the team, and you'll see it in the products, is Randy, your recommendation of eliminating the neutral one, so it'll be a 1 through 4 rating. So either you're on the positive side or the negative side of that. There is no middle ground. And the other piece that we did add was a June formative component to it. So you've got the end of the year, you've got the mid-year. So there would be a formative sit-down closed session with the board, between the board and the district administrator. So those would be the 2 changes that we'd be looking to approve moving forward.
Okay, we're on the old business. We've got evaluation action. We've got the final reading of that.
So last time, we, the policy committee recommended some new language to it. Basically, it updates some of the main areas that the superintendent is responsible for, and you've got that in front of you. So basically, what we just talked about, eliminating the 1 through 5 rating, just the 1 through 4 rating, updating the language as it relates to basically the job description, and then adding the mid-year June formative evaluation. So just looking for a motion to approve the new policy 2005, the district administrator evaluation, as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 2005 and 2005.1 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Where exactly is the June?
It's in the, and I printed it before, it's on the electronic copy, Dean. It's not in your packet because it was after the publication, to make sure that the committee wanted to do that. So it is in the electronic version. Let's see it. But you want to see it?
Yeah. I'm not saying it's not here. So what's this going to look like, the mid-year?
The mid-year would focus around the highlights of student achievement, human resources, community, financial and facility, strategic, and professionalism. So it would it could be a mid-year report on the goals about how we're progressing. It could be a summary of the year, but ultimately very similar to what happened last time is, hey Ron, I want you to focus on, last time you guys told me, hey, let's get working on strategic planning and the community involvement piece. Perfect, here we go. So just kind of a mid-year, it's not going to be, unless it's the discretion of the board, it can be a formal, hey, everybody fills out the evaluation form, but that's something that can be fluid. But it would be just an update on goals, as well as an update on those 6 key areas of the evaluation.
Did you run this by
No. It's not uncommon. If you take a look at some of the other language, for instance, Menominee Falls is very in-depth. They've got quarterly, they've got mid-year formative stuff as well. So the board can set any type of evaluation for the superintendent, whether that's biannually, monthly, that's at their discretion, because it is an evaluation of an employee.
I understand that it's our discretion, but it's really vague on what we're doing.
I think the vagueness is in there because it depends on the position and what we're reviewing, and that's going to change every year. So to constrict what those parameters, it's going to limit what we can do then.
The policy was, the intent of that was for it to be broad. It really was. But still around the categories that would be responsible for the superintendent as well.
I'm a little worried about the vagueness of it, because of, everything, when you're in a great relationship with an administrator and things are going good, it doesn't have any meaning.
Well, it does. It does though. But the one, you're right, the formative one has no meaning. But the summative one, which is the big one, has the meaning, and that still is very specific about what it can be. I guess the mid-year update was meant to be broad, so to bring up any concerns, issues, goal input, kind of at the discretion of the board. So if the board in May said, hey Ron, I want you to, can you bring this to us? Can you bring that to us? kind of in more of a closed session environment if you want to. And remember, any board member can ask for that at any time, for a closed session about the superintendent evaluation or anything else like that too. So the intent though, Dean, was truly to be vague, I think.
Yeah, and that's what the vagueness makes me a little nervous. But
And state statute gives you guys a lot of, because basically for a non-renewal, when we start talking about non-renewals, it doesn't have to be, it just has to be by January 31st of the following year. So whether that's June 1, July 1, December 1, it does give you guys a lot of leeway, but it does line up well with state statute. So I'm fine with it.
I would recommend having it looked at from a legal aspect, just because of what liability it could put us in as a district. And so I would have to vote against it, but what the board wants to do. I would, before I would even consider it, I would look at the legal aspects of it. Okay. Okay, so we're looking for final reading here as action item.
Right. I think we've got a motion. We got a motion to second.
Then all in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and I'll say aye.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to move on to the academic and curriculum.
Yep. So this would be the second and final reading. If there's any questions, we probably can entertain those after motions. You're just looking to approve the academic and career planning curriculum as presented.
Make a motion to approve the academic and career planning curriculum as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions on that?
Roughly how much time will we devote to this?
We're talking about, well, for fifth grade we do through this town and do some of that stuff. I would say for 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, and 6th grade, because we're talking about really working on that career aspect, doing some research through our reading and writing, and then coming down to some formal interviews. I would say probably 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours. In the entire school year.
And that's 4 to 5 hours of, like, we're gonna practice writing a resume, so it still links to other things.
Correct.
Like a lot of our curriculum.
We're not going to have it in isolation, because even when we start talking about the interview process, that is all tied to speaking and listening skills. So we will assess all of this and bring this really through. Jackie Corner will be working with our literacy folks, is what we're going to be coming through. Is where we see this happening. We'll take a look at our curriculums, but it does really tie nicely to our writing, listening, speaking type of environment. So yeah, Randy, we're talking 4 to 5 hours max throughout the entire year.
Okay, if there's no other questions, all in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We're on to new business. We've got the two-way communication device policy.
Yeah, just wanted to get any feedback from the board for the policy committee from what was presented during the policy committee review.
I think you guys are heading in the right direction. I like that you're taking the teacher discretion out of it and requiring the second level.
And that was unanimous even from the
teachers.
side, from the teachers too. Yeah.
Because it's more just also to show the teachers that they have the support of the board. You know, that, so it eliminates any confusion.
So far, nothing, we haven't heard anything from the community at all, or?
No, and I did send out it did go out to the entire community. I sent it out and I highlighted, hey, the really big component, if you wanted to take a look, was basically the usage of cell phones in our intermediate school too. So I haven't heard anything. And I really do believe, though, this really truly does meet the needs of our families as well. So, Randy, like you mentioned, we're going to clean this up and we'll present it to the board in August. So,
Okay, then we're on to the 17-18 school year letters of appointment. We've got a list here.
sure. This is just per our handbook. These are the individuals who do year-round or school year type of environments. Again, this would be our support staff, as well as some of those letters of appointments for those co-curriculars that happen year-round. So what you see here for the hourly wages, these are our returners. We do have 2 openings right now that we have posted on the end. We'll be searching for those at the beginning of August. But these wages, per the negotiating team, have increased 1.5%. So for our returners, basically. So again, just looking for a motion to approve the 2017-18 letters of appointments as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2017-18 letters of appointment as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What creates the different hourly wage levels? Is it just level for the same, like special ed,
Sure.
anywhere from 15-something to 1801? Is it just number of years?
Years of experience, it truly does. And Randy, that's a good question. When we do look to hire, we do delineate there is a 35-cent difference between special ed and what would be considered regular education services. So, but yes, the discrepancy truly is special ed would be years of experience. Yeah. And then when we take a look at the intervention role at STEM, she's a licensed teacher with a reading specialist license, so that is why there's obviously a greater value on her skill set with that education component.
Okay, no other discussion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. And we're on to 2017-18 academic standards declaration.
Yeah, every year, actually, according from last budget, and this hasn't been talked about being removed, Act 55, the public schools are required to make an academic standards declaration. Basically, where do you pull your stuff, your curriculum, and what are your standards all about? So we, as an administration, we did review what we said last year, and that still does hold true, that the Merton Community School District does look at a variety of standards, next gen, Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, Common Core, which are 2 of the same, and then we also have locally developed academic expectations, very similar to the academic and career planning. That was all locally developed. Our social studies was locally developed, so just per state statute, we need to make this declaration. So the administration is recommending the board approve the following statement, and it would have to be read for the Merton Community School District's pupil academic standards for the 2017-18 school year.
Go ahead. Make a motion to approve the statement identifying the Merton Community School District's pupil academic standards for the 2017-18 school year as follows. The Merton Community School District is committed to using benchmarked and rigorous academic standards that set the highest expectations for student performance and prepare students in the district for success in college and career development. In creating these standards, the district carefully looks at multiple sources to best prepare our students for future college and career success, and then create standards that best fit the needs of the Merton Community School District students. These sources include Wisconsin Model Academic Standards, Next Generation Science Standards, Common Core, and other locally developed academic expectations.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we got area schools health insurance purchasing cooperative bylaws.
Yep. Every year we are, as a member of the co-op, the co-op and the bylaws ask for approval from each board. Again, there are 9 different boards, all the Arrowhead feeders, Pewaukee School District, as well as Hartford Joint that are part of this educational insurance cooperative. So The administration is recommending the board approve the Waukesha County Area Schools Insurance Purchasing Co-op bylaws as presented. And these are all legally run through the legal teams and things like that too.
I'll make a motion to approve the Waukesha County Area Schools Health Insurance Purchasing Cooperative bylaws as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We have the student handbook for 17-18.
So, yep, just looking at the attached, I mean, they're all attached. But the primary school and the intermediate school, Mr. Budish and Mr. Posick reviewed. Obviously, they did some minor cleanup, changing dates and, you know, from Aviance to Chartwells and things like that. So no major, really, revisions throughout each of the handbooks. I did, however, update the intermediate school handbook to reflect the recommendation of the cell phone policy to very clearly delineate that in the handbook as well. So that is all there from what we just got done talking about, the recommendation moving forward to that as well. So the administration is seeking a motion to approve the primary and intermediate school student handbooks as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the primary and intermediate school student handbooks as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We've got the lunch price with fees.
Yep. So the last thing we really need to do is, last month we did approve Chartwells to be our new food service management company. First of all, we are in the final phases of being ready to sign that contract with them. We did get DPI approval earlier this week, and right now it is out at the legal team. Heartland Lakeside has taken our RFP and actually is paying for the bill too, so we're real excited about that. So just to put two RFPs together, their legal team, they're very, very similar, but Heartland Lakeside is going to be, their legal team is going to be looking at that, so which would be the same people we would contact as well. So we are very close to signing that agreement and checking that box. So, and they were on campus last week and had a very, very good conversation with them. So, but now that we've got a food service management company, that we're in the National Food Lunch Program, we do need to set our food service prices for next year. And in working with Chartwells, they are recommending that we keep our current prices the same. There is one difference, though, is now that we're part of the national program, the milk is included in the meal, you know, what counts as a real registered meal. So what the administration and Chartwells is recommending that, again, over 95% of our kids last year who took a meal, took milk. So if you add $2.90 plus to 10 cents, which is what we charged last year for milk, you get a $3 price and a $3.25 price for that too. So the administration is looking to basically just set one price for the entire meal, which includes the milk. It's basically $2.90 plus 10, and the standard lunch was $3.15 plus 10, so we get $3.25. So basically for next year, we're looking at hopefully a $3 primary price. Standard lunch for the intermediate is $3.25. World Flavors, or some sort of more unique lunch, is at $3.75, and the adult to stay the same because it doesn't include milk anyway for the adult conversation there. So I guess the one thing we didn't include this in here because we continue to have some conversation is what happens for a student who wants to purchase either an extra milk or a cold lunch student who a lot of times they go up and, hey, I'll take a milk. In the past, we've charged 10 cents. We can continue to charge 10 cents, but when you take a look at the price of a carton of milk, it is 23 cents. It is 23 cents. So, so Sherry, were we thinking?
Right, I have an email out to Heartland to see how they handle it, what their prices are at. I just haven't heard back yet.
So, what's that?
Why do we have these arbitrary, like, currency-based prices? Because everything is digital anyway. It makes no sense to charge a quarter, just charge 23 cents.
Because we do have kids that come and drop dimes in. So the administration we do allow change. So kids sometimes,
Oh, seriously? Really?
yes, we do.
And we get a lot of it.
Believe me,
surprisingly.
Sherry's responsible for counting, her department
Every
is.
day. We get a lot of
So
coins.
we would, as much as we'd love to count pennies, we do still count a lot of change. So we would, you know, in our opinion, it can be, I don't know if we want to, if we want to add 2 cents to it to make it a quarter, or 20 cents or
easier than 2
And the distributor can fluctuate
Right.
during the year.
Yes, it
The
can.
quarter would cover us. Because we don't lock in a milk price,
No, you can't.
because there's formulas out there for what they can charge.
Curious, was, last year, was our cost 10 cents, or was that what we charged?
That's what we charge.
Okay.
How did we determine that $3 and, or even the previous $2.90, and how did we determine those? Because those are still round numbers that, obviously they were rounded at some point in time from a calculation of cost.
Phil, and Sherry can talk about the calculation. Phil, what goes into really calculating the cost is we take a look at a food cost and employee cost, is what we take a look at. Because basically, when you take a look at the employee cost, there's a price per meal that's set on that, and then you have your food cost. So those together, we take a look at and say, okay, what are those? And then we look at $2.90. And then that's how we came up with $2.90. A few years ago, it was $2.80, because I think a couple of years ago we added 10
Well, that
cents.
calculation can't possibly have actually been $2.90.
No,
Right, it must have been $2.58 or some,
right.
right? And then we
Right.
just decided it should be $2.90, because then when you add a milk, it's $3, and that's a nice round number, and it makes people happy.
Well, there also is the idea that, again, we want the food service department to be self-sustaining. So there is some profit built into that cost. And now this year, for instance, the food service management company's cost is also built into that $3 cost if we go through it. So you've got employees, you got the food service management fee, which is 15 cents a meal.
Yes.
15 cents a meal, if I recall, and then you've got the food cost. Correct, that does become an arbitrary money, and then you take a look at, for instance, for us, you want the food service to be self-sustaining.
Sure.
So you don't want to, Dean, to your point, you don't want to cut it so close that, because we know food service prices fluctuate, or food fluctuates. The employees and the management fee don't. Those are the fixed costs.
And I guess my question is, why wouldn't you just add 10% or something, and you still would just end up with whatever that number is? Why push it to some currency-based number? I mean, I get the milk, you know, if kids drop in a dime for milk, like, okay, that makes sense, because it's easier to handle that money, but
Is your question how we came up with 290, correct? About what's
Well,
the
yes,
segments of that?
I mean, obviously, so you did some math, and you came up with $2.87, or whatever the math would tell you, and then you said, all right, we're gonna make it $2.90. Why?
To make sure we don't lose money in our food service accounts.
But presumably the $2.87 already had that included in there.
Doesn't include any profit in there for the district.
So what profit number would you like?
It
Right,
can be
it's a
self-sustaining.
percentage, it's a, right?
Well, it could be, and Sherry, maybe you can help us out with some of that explanation. Right now, our food service fund balance is 0.
Yeah.
Because to Dean's point, it's
We
right.
supplemented.
We are
Yeah,
supplementing
yeah,
it,
yeah.
and it's about a
Yeah.
$10,000 supplement. So the ideal food service accounts is there's a profit that is made every year. And that's truly why we're going on to the National School Lunch Program. One of the reasons is to try to ensure a profit, or at least a break even. So that you can continue to either build your program, or when things do go down, a milk cooler needs to be replaced, ovens, stoves, that you're able to then fix that through that budget.
I understand that you would like to have a profit in the program. My point is, the costs are relatively known, and you could apply, it seems more logical to say, all right, we're gonna add up all of our known costs, and understanding that there's variability in that, and so you say, all right, we're gonna add an extra 10% or 25% onto that, and then you just come up with a number. And it's not gonna be a nice round currency-based number, it's just gonna be, that's what the number is. But obviously, we didn't exactly do that, right? Because we ended up with round numbers for everything, so that can't possibly have happened that way.
Sherry, can you talk about the PLE
Does that make
calculator?
sense?
Yes, it does. Can you talk
Yeah.
about the PLE calculator?
Absolutely. Going on to the National Lunch Program, calculator, which stands for your paid lunch equity. And basically what they're determined is that they don't want the funds that you're receiving on the National Lunch Program to subsidize lunches that are maybe for adults or for students that are able to pay 100% of the meals. So they've determined that the minimum amount that a school district can charge is $2.86 for this upcoming 17-18 school year. So we have to be above that amount, no matter what. So that's what I kind of ran through. The $2.90, it's right there. So.
Well, but that's just coincidental, really, right?
Yeah.
It was, because that's what we were charging
Because that's
last
what we were
year.
charging last
That's
year.
what we were charging
I-
last
I
year.
And obviously, you weren't necessarily part of that
Right.
decision-making last year, but
Right, and Chartwell's coming in, you know, they looked at the business and they feel that they can make a profit. We're hoping that, you know, they're entirely correct, because you want to keep your food prices lower to attract more people to use them. And to.
Well, that's my
buy
point.
lunches.
That's-
Well,
Right,
if we're arbitrarily inflating to some currency-based, you know, number,
Inflating only 4 cents though. I mean,
so
And
Phil,
we do have fluctuations that
you're
can
right,
happen.
Correct.
exactly.
and I guess, Phil, to answer your question, we're not prepared right now to show you the, say it's $2.90, or say $3, say it's $3.
7%.
We would be able to, in a very short amount of time, if you know, give us a week or so, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
we can show you the breakdown of one meal. If it's $3, what is the cost of the management fee? We know that. What's the labor cost? That's gonna go into that meal. What's the food cost and what's the milk cost? And then we can basically try to show you what the profit is on a $3 meal. Now, remember, as part of the National Lunch Program, every meal we serve, we will get 35 cents back minimum, through the national program. They will reimburse us 35 cents. And that's, as well as they reimburse all the free and reduced. So that's the financial attraction to be on the national program. That wasn't there last year. So when we start talking about, you know, Dean's point, every time we talk about food service, which is the one that, hell darn it, we've got to make sure it happens, it has to be self-sustaining. So, Phil, the question that I asked Sherry and the question that we asked Chartwell's is are we overcharging?
Mhm.
You know, we don't want to make this huge profit on the backs of our students and families just so we can, you know, feed them lunch. That is not the intention. However, the PLE calculator is telling us that you can't charge lower than $2.86. Now, if that PLE calculator was $2.56 or $2.36, then I think the board would have a conversation to say, whoa, maybe we are overcharging. But the federal government and the DPI are telling us we can't charge less than $2.86 this moment. But Phil, what we can share with you though is out of the $3 that we're proposing here, where does, what percentage goes to labor, food, management fee, profit? No. In essence, we can break that down.
I guess
It
ultimately
may
what it
take us-
comes back down to it, the profit number that we end up with is the number that becomes arbitrary so that we can get to an even dollar number, is really the way that it just works out. So instead of planning that we're gonna have a 10% profit, we're gonna end up, or whatever the number is, we're gonna end up with 7.6% profit so that we can get to a $3 number.
We don't have a goal.
To get this discussion done, Mike, why don't we propose that we charge $2.99 and then Phil would be
That's not
happy
the,
with
that's not the
$2.99.
point, Dean. Forget it. Let's move on.
We could
It's
show.
okay, it's okay, Ron. It's okay.
Well,
We'll move on. No, Dean's done. He wants to be done with the meeting. We're at an hour. We'll move on.
I'm just saying, you just don't want a arbitrary even number.
I
I
want
bet
us to
you
charge
even
the
the
people
numbers-
what we should charge them based on what the service we're providing,
Right, but.
as opposed to just inflating the cost because it's a round number.
But we'd have variables. I bet you even the milk distributor's got a fuel fluctuation thing in his contract too, doesn't he?
I'm sure of that.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
if
that's-
the
well, it's
fuel
no different.
price goes up, his price per carton of milk goes up.
Well, the concern that I'm hearing from Phil, which is a concern that we're charging people the service and the product that we're providing, that's fair. And I think that's a reasonable concern as an elected official to have. Are you representing your community? Are they fairly being judged?
And
I think that's a fair concern to look into.
And we have to charge $2.86 at the minimum.
Right.
And so we're only 4 cents over, and actually we're taking a loss on the milk.
In
So,
theory, we're undercharging. But how, and this is where, but you get 35 cents back, and we are, and Phil, I know there's not Phil, the entire board. If we had a $50,000 fund balance, then we're talking about, hey, you know, that's getting too big. Let's this year either freeze the price, or we start to take a look at, how do we, you know, what can we do to enhance it? So, Phil, what we can show from last year, we have the numbers from last year, is we could show you where all the money went. And last year, we took a loss. Okay, so when you take a look at labor, food service costs, and that doesn't even include, we've taken out the janitorial component, because now we've been taking that out of our Fund 10. Because typically you take that out of Fund 50, which is our food service account, to pay for the janitor, the custodial work that occurs for the lunch program. So that's not even in the equation.
and we're not even trying to recoup our losses.
No.
Which
But
we
Phil,
can't
you're
do.
asking the right question, is in that $3 meal, is where is all the money going? We can show you where it went last year. This upcoming year, if you give us a couple months, looking at some of our, because when we get the breakdowns, it'll be labor cost, price per meal, food cost, price per meal. Because Chartwell's is charged with right now, they want to sell more meals. So they've got to make sure there's a great product out there, because that's the only way they're getting paid, is by the per meal, which is what we really wanted it to be. But that's why I asked Sherry, are we charging too much? And that's why we took a look at the analysis and said, we didn't go as deep in, say, because we didn't have to. We would have gone deep if the PLE calculator would have said 256. But then we're like, okay, 286, and we had this conversation with Chartwell's, 286 plus 23 cents, you're looking at, 310 is what we should be charging. But we're not charging 310 because we ultimately know that, hey, we're going to get 35 cents back. Or we're going to get, the reimbursable meals back for the free reduced lunch kids. So we don't need to charge $3.10. We can just keep it at $3 from what our families are used to paying. So we did kind of run that through, kind of the parent side of things too, because basically if our costs are high, people aren't going to eat. And we really feel that, we can't go lower than 286. And if we add 10 cents on like we've always had, in essence, a family would say, hey, the district's kind of almost a wash. But knowing that we want to maintain a high quality food service program too as well, that is self-sustaining. So Phil, those are all good questions that I can demonstrate what we've done in the past. And for a couple months, we'll be able to, even after the first month, there'll be a little bit higher cost because they have employee training and stuff like that. But we'll be able to demonstrate all of that for the board or for anyone, community members, whatever they like.
I think whether the pricing is a set markup of cost or whether it's somewhat arbitrary, you're going to have a variance at the end of the year regardless because of cost fluctuations throughout the year. What I would suggest is maybe instead we look at setting a targeted fund balance and that we manage to that on a year-to-year basis. Because if you just strictly go up, you're never going to be right at the end of the year regardless of how you do the pricing. So let's make for sure we don't exceed some preset fund balance.
And we do have history of our past 3 years where we have shorted ourselves on Fund 50 on the lunch program.
Right, because
And so by staying at an even amount here, because we know the known factor of that we're in the federal program, we're going to get revenues, I think is a prudent way of doing it, is that we're assuring ourselves we're not going to be deficit again.
right. And by the way, just a reminder, our food service contract for the first year is guaranteed a profit. Up to 34?
Oh, well, it's
40, up to 40,000. Up to 40,000 guaranteed. Basically, the management fee, for every 15 cents we pay Chartwell's, we get it back. This year, the first year, per the RFP. So we are guaranteed, whatever Chartwell's gets, we get it back for this first year.
And we are gonna have to make investments into the food service.
Well, we are, but however, the RFP, Chartwell's is already adding $3,500 into the program, specifically for small wares, equipment, etc. And then they're also adding up to $10,000 in marketing. So we made it very clear to Chartwell's when they were here, because they were like, all right, Ron and Sherry, what do you guys have? I told them nothing. Right, Sherry? I did. We told them, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. Anything you add to our food service program, it's per your RFP. The $3,500 we expect right away, they'll be showing us what that is, and then up to $10,000 in marketing. That is what's being added. The school district itself is doing nothing for the program this year. Per our RFP.
We will have to in the future.
Oh, sure, because that goes back to what Randy's question
Right,
is.
is by having a fund balance.
Right, and if we want to take a look at having some sort of a policy, we certainly can, very similar to our fund balance policy right now, and what the board decided our policy is right around 20%. We demonstrated to our community that, hey, last year we ended with a surplus and we had a 28%. So we've just done one-time costs, the facility projects, the lockers, the ceilings, the roofs, the pavement, to bring that fund balance down more in line with our policy. So I would say I'd recommend for a couple of years, let's get into this to see what our profits are. Because right now, unless we wanted to say, hey, set a target of 50,000, because we could go back, Dean, to your point, and see what kind of fund balance we had prior to Aviance and going by ourselves, because remember we used to share a food service director. And that's one of the reasons why we partnered with Hartland Lakeside was because the employee costs were too high. So,
How can that fund balance be used?
only for food service costs.
And strictly for food service, or could you use it for when you have assemblies or when you have?
If it's tied to your food service account or something that is tied to the program, then you can use it. That's it. For instance, if we wanted it to add a new speaker system, well, if it's in the food, that goes through some very strict guidelines. Our auditors check that.
Right. I know Heartland Lakeside, they just added, Chartwell's wanted TVs around the cafeteria, scrolling some marketing stuff, so they were able to purchase some TVs and place them around that way.
Yep. Waukesha, several schools who have redone their cafeteria areas have added some of those nice components where you're like, hey, let's throw up the menu for tomorrow. Perfect. Food service. Right. And that's really where you can charge the custodial and things like that, but as soon as they're done, technically we can't charge anything else to that, and that is scrutinized. That is.
I don't know that we want to get into spending thousands on.
And we did actually have
No,
policy.
we're not spending thousands
I know,
on anything. No,
but
we're not.
like looking forward, you mentioned we did put TVs in the lunchroom or whatever.
No, but if you wanted to put some sort of audio, video equipment to justify that you're doing it for your community and stuff like that, that's a great opportunity to really leverage the system.
We did actually have policy that when the hot lunch program was initiated, that it was never going to be subsidized by the taxpayers. It's going to all be self-sustaining. And that was initiated probably close to 30 years ago.
Let me dig around for our food service policies. So I guess at this moment, the administration is recommending that we set our food service prices for primary to be $3. For intermediate, we have a $3.25 standard, and also rolled flavors, the accelerate one, or the more elaborate one, $3.75, and again, all of those would include milk. and the adult ones to be at $4.05. The milk prices, I mean, 20 cents, I think is fair. If we wanted to go a quarter, that would be up to the board. But I think 20 cents, knowing that the average milk cost is 23, that's justifiable to a family, I feel. So, Sherry, 20 cents, I think we would recommend 20 cents.
Or why couldn't we just leave it at a time?
You can.
No.
And I would, Randy's idea on the fund balance, I would love to say, you know, after a year or two with the program, say, hey, we can lower our lunch prices because we have enough in our fund balance to cover future costs, right? From past history, I can't see us lowering lunch costs, wage prices right now.
No, nor are we recommending that.
No, but using Randy's point of you having a cap on what our fund balance is for future expenses, that would be our determining on what we set our lunch prices at.
Right. And we truly would be 2 years away from that. Because we're guaranteed, we're guaranteed a profit next year, period. The second year is really where you start to settle in and say, okay, how's the program working?
But I think the reason I'd like to see us put a limit on the fund balance is because if we go into the second year and we, you know, say we increase prices again or whatever, and we end up building this large fund balance, then I'm afraid our solution to eliminating the fund balance will be to go buy new equipment or put on a whole bunch of stuff. And really all we're doing is we're funding a bunch of things that maybe aren't necessary off of our students and parents, you know, and so.
Correct, but you know, redoing your food service line, for us, redoing that area where the food service is, that's the main entry area.
Oh, certainly, if there's needed things to be done, we should do them.
Right.
There's, you know, there's a difference between needed and wanted.
Right.
Or, you know, hey, wouldn't this be nice to have?
Well, that's really the purpose of that fund balance, but you're right, we don't want to build a fund balance on the backs of our families just to do cool things. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to build that fund balance so when that milk cooler goes, holy cow, Jordan is, you know, wired it as many times as he can, we just got to replace it, and those things are not cheap at all. For instance, we're looking at, you know, replacing gas meters and doing some more efficiency stuff in the lunch area, because our utility bills, we don't even start talking about utility bills being charged to Fund 10, or being charged to Fund 50. So that's really where, when we start talking about dishwashers and hot water heaters, separating some of those things with more high efficiency things to really start saving money out of the Fund 10 to be able to do that too. So I don't want this war chest, but we also want to be able to be more efficient and really fix the things and really charge to Fund 50 what we can. Custodial services, all of those things, because those just alleviate Fund 10 expenditures. That's our goal.
So I'll make a motion to set the 2017 lunch prices to be primary school $3 per meal including milk, intermediate school standard lunch $3.25 per meal including milk, world flavors $3.75 per meal including milk, adult meals $4.05 excluding milk, and milk prices at 20 cents per cart.
Why can't we leave milk at a time?
But let's we got a motion, we'll get a second, and we'll talk
Well,
about
if
it.
it dies for lack of a motion.
Oh, that's true, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And is there any further discussion? Okay.
So I think we should keep milk at a dime, because we already know we're getting 35 cents back, so then it drops what we're getting back to a quarter. We're already guaranteed a profit for this year.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to make the milk price 10 cents per cart.
A second.
Okay. It's his second.
No.
I'll second again.
Okay, is there any other further discussion with the amendment? And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried.
Thank you. And we can get you some of that information if you'd like, Phil, at any time, or take a look at last year's.
All right. Okay, we got future meetings and agenda items. We've got August 28th, regular monthly meeting.
I know there was some conversation around, does that date work for everybody? The 28th?
They probably won't work for me, but
I know it's the last week before school and people are rolling in and out.
probably is a Tuesday, right?
28th is
It's
a
a Monday.
Monday, I'm sorry, yeah. It's the week before, but I know August is a busy time for everybody. If it's not that, Randy, is there any time that week? The 30th, we have a district open house. That would be really the day that would probably be off limits.
Yeah,
That's okay.
It's off limits for me too.
Okay. Do we want to look at the week of the 21st? Right now, the really big component to the August meeting would be any of those last minute hires prior to the start of the school year. But we do anticipate having all of those completed outside of a late resignation through the 21st. So the week of the 21st, does that work for everybody, or?
I can't do the 21st.
No? Okay, so Randy's saying no to that one too.
And planning a Monday vacations.
Okay,
The 29th.
29th work?
Tuesday night, I think it's Tuesday.
Bill?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so we will set the next meeting for the 29th then. Perfect. Okay, then we've got the annual meeting as well, set for the 12th. And that is something that we established at last year's annual meeting. So, and then with the September, then we'll just get into that last Monday of the month, and we can talk about that if that's what we want to continue to do. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thanks, everybody, for coming in early.